All right, welcome back to Dandrew, the new setup.
The current Tailosive movie review setup,
Yeah.
which is now the highest rated Tailosive channel in the Tailosive network.
Yeah, thank you, Navori. That wasn't expected. I was totally expecting it to get reamed.
We'll review him next.
Yeah, exactly.
But what are we talking about today?
We're
Dan?
talking about Bright, the most recent creation of David Ayer that was released on Netflix about like 3 weeks ago, almost a month now.
Yeah, it's been a while. It was very heavily marketed and advertised.
It was because
Yes.
it's Will Smith,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all, and Joel Edgerton, and
Who barely looks like Joel Edgerton.
one of the best things about the movie is probably the makeup they did.
It took me a long time to figure out. Well, it is David Ayer, who is known for his Oscar for Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
For best makeup. So,
Yeah, it's true, Mark.
So obviously they brought that back, which is what I was most looking forward to in Bright.
Yeah.
The insane makeup
Yeah.
always makes a film.
Much better. So the basic synopsis of Bright is that it's an alternate timeline where like all kinds of storybooks types of creatures and whatnot actually have always
What's that
existed.
called? There's a term for it, like royalty-free fiction.
Something like
the kind of fiction that's
Like
elf,
basically
dwarf,
orcs, elves,
fairies.
fairies, dwarves, all these like really generic sounding creatures are their own actual species that have always existed alongside humankind.
And it's not exclusive to Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones. It's just kind of everything. And dragons, I think they can make reference to.
They mentioned dragons at some point. It's that very stock story of trying to stop a Dark Lord from taking over the world.
Right.
It's like the most basic of plot lines, but I think the biggest selling point is, oh, it's modern day LA though. I'm like, you have my attention, movie. Go on. Like
Did you not like that it was in LA?
I actually enjoyed that idea.
Okay.
Because I like a lot of I really like the art. I can't talk right now.
That's okay.
I like the author Neil Gaiman, and like one of his big things is he likes to take fantasy and kind of put an urban spin on things.
Yeah.
Two of his books that come to mind are Neverwhere and American Gods.
Mm-hmm.
And Neverwhere is all about like the London Metro is like a gateway to the paranormal and the supernatural and all that.
Yeah,
and
it was a very interesting premise. I remember when I was following this movie before there was even a trailer. I remember when they just announced I think it made records because it was something like the highest budgeted Netflix film, not a show. I think it was something like $40 million they put into this movie. Yeah.
I think that's kind of
30 million went straight to Will Smith. But, like, come on, we need you to say fairy lives don't matter.
Yeah.
And that required $30 million.
Yeah, because Will Smith is just like, guys, can't we just stop? 30 million, fine.
Fine, I'll say anything for 30 million. But
no, he was probably like, I would have done that for like $1 million. We really want you in this movie. All right, I guess.
Really one of the only things attracting me to this film, but it was also the premise, which was it seemed fairly original.
I think there's
very original.
Yeah, fairly original. Somewhere out there, Logan Paul's dabbing. He doesn't know why.
Yes,
but
there was something there.
And what sucks is like as I was watching, I was thinking this isn't terrible, but it still suffers from like the same problems Suicide Squad had. I think.
Yeah, it's kind of similar in that regard.
Like it takes it's a 2-hour-long movie. It takes 40 minutes for the igniting agent that kicks off the plot.
Yes.
It's
it's written by Max Landis. And I think the most distracting...
What else has he done? Because I know
Chronicle is what he's most known for.
Right.
American Ultra.
I never watched Chronicle.
He's done other stuff. I'm not a huge fan of him. He's on Red Letter Media quite often, so I know who he is.
Right.
But I'm not a huge fan of his style or work. I don't find it particularly funny or
engaging.
But what I think he's really good at is a premise. He's very, very good at.
He's like George Lucas. He's good at making a setting, and then you just should cut him off.
Yeah, right.
Okay, this makes more sense.
One thing that I would give people. Film school students will often say this. I've heard is that you want to sum up a movie with a sentence.
Okay.
And
that makes sense. Yeah, you gotta grab the attention fast.
Yeah, I just think that we're past times now where you can hold an audience's attention that easily. You have to make things more complicated or intricate in order to hold people's attention, especially in a day where movies are on Netflix now.
Certainly there's a way to do that in one sentence, but I think it's safe to say that like our generation of film goers, we're not really into just simplistic. We like it when things get complicated and weird.
I do anyways.
I do too. I love it to death. Like, I could world build the crap out of anything if you want me to write it.
I love world building. Like, I recently rewatched Mad Max Fury Road, and I just forgot how amazing of a film that is. How much I love watching that, and what...
The fact that there's, like, a devoted settlement to just making ammunition and making gas.
Yes, this whole universe that's just gone completely mad, and that's really interesting. And actually, I've been noticing that like I haven't heard any developments for a sequel. You know what?
I'm fine with that.
That's great.
That's probably a good thing.
If George Miller's done with that
franchise, he went out on a high note.
That was a great way to end it. But yeah, with Bright, it definitely feels like anytime someone walks in the room and asks you what you're watching, you can sum up that movie with a sentence. So we followed that part of the film school playbook, which is, you can sum this up with, it's medieval characters in a modern atmosphere. And you'll be like, oh, so there's orcs and stuff.
Yeah, pretty much.
But the problem, I think, with the movie is it doesn't get too much further than that.
I think one thing I want us to get out of the way right now is because a lot of people who have talked about this, I've noticed they've brought it up as some kind of social commentary.
Yes.
Guys.
Very obvious.
We need to set a standard for ourselves. We need to stop this thing where we try and do social commentary when it's so detached from reality that you can't even do that. Like, if you're trying to somehow draw some kind of synonymous relationship between, like, I don't know, let's say like the civil rights movement and these orcs, because like a big thing about this movie,
it's very on the nose.
It's very on the nose
that orcs are treated like humans, like they don't have equal treatment.
And Joel Edgerton's character is like a huge anomaly because he's like the first orc police officer.
Yeah, and his teeth are sawed down.
Exactly, and everybody treats him like it's like they're basically calling him a race traitor because he's like, oh, you don't want to be an orc. You're not proud of who you are. And it's like, no, I just care about law and order.
It's like a character who doesn't have a home because he's trying to adapt to the more man culture, but they're not accepting him, and the orcs hate him. So it's kind of one of those...
And just stop trying to draw some social commentary when your setting is so weird. Like, if you wanted to do something with real life, I'm not going to watch it because I can't stand being pandered to that way. But... it's still more accepting because there's
other forms of social commentary that I think are more applicable, and the way I would describe it is social commentary should go more along the lines of how things are going to be, not how they've been.
Exactly.
When you do social commentary on things that have already happened, it's kind of a no-brainer. Exactly. It's treating the audience like
children or something.
Yeah, like children. Like this is that's how I kind of looked at, what was it, the more recent It film, is that it kind of had this underlining theme of facing your fears. And I was like, but that's a very juvenile lesson. You know, like, you're not going to show this movie to 6-year-olds because it's terrifying and it's rated R. But you're teaching a juvenile lesson, and juveniles aren't watching this. Yeah. And it was similar.
Well, okay, they probably are.
They probably are, but yeah, for the cheap jump scares and stuff.
Yeah.
But I just mean, like... kids don't watch that movie and go, oh, and just like the kids in the movie, I too should face my fears and ask out my crush.
Don't you have taxes?
Yeah.
Don't you have like a W-2 to sort out?
Can we have a social commentary film about taxes? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't want that. But Bright in a similar way, maybe not to that juvenile of a state. Maybe it's just because of us being not racist.
Yeah, we don't care. It's like, we know being mean to people's bad just because of something they're born with.
Yes, discriminating against people for the way they look is what
like
they're going
they're trying to say, hey guys, you know racism's bad? Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Moving along, Landis.
First of all, most people, at least in our society, I don't know if maybe there's micro communities out there with racists that are still around. If so, they're pretty unpopular. But at least
no one likes a racist.
In our Chico area, in our Chico, Oroville, Butte County atmosphere,
we're all pretty accepting here.
We're pretty accepting, and the idea that you shouldn't discriminate based on how people look is a pretty standard, well-taught thing.
You don't get a cookie for that. It's called just being a well-adjusted human being.
And on top of that, if in some of these micro-communities there are racists watching this film, it's not going to change their mind.
Yeah.
This isn't one that's combating them. Like, this is...
They're still going to see Will Smith and say some terrible stuff.
I was going to say, if you're making this film and trying to tell people that you shouldn't be racist, you shouldn't have casted Will Smith as the protagonist. And also, it doesn't even handle that basic social commentary, which is that racism is bad. Yes, we all agree. Yeah. This isn't a social debate going on. It's just kind of an agreed.
And even if that is the intended message, which I think we can safely say it kind of is.
Very obviously.
It's really screwed up just because no one likes Nick Jacoby.
The main human characters in this film are not nice people.
Yeah. Everybody can't stand Joel Edgerton's character. And that's the problem. It's like, you gotta... Every time I saw him... Mm-hmm. He's a character you can relate to. He's awkward. He's out of place. He's
trying his best.
He's trying his best. He's a really well-adjusted character that you can get behind.
There's not really a reason for anyone to hate him.
Exactly. And they're doing really stupid... Like, you said this, but like we were kind of getting our thoughts out. They do some really juvenile things. Like, they put a piece of paper on it that says that, I think, either says kick me or
it said kick
something.
Me.
It's
and
like, these are police officers.
Yeah, I was like, if they were in a 6th grade school, I'd be like, oh, they did the kick me thing. Like, first of all, that never happened in my school district. That kind of felt like a very cheap and stupid.
That's like you're not even scraping the bottom of the barrels. You're probably like,
but then to
getting
say that,
splinters because you're breaking through the
Then to say that police do it, it's like police officers are that juvenile to be like, let's kick me on this guy.
Especially with someone who's genuinely likable character. Like, as soon as he first comes on, I'm like, all right, he's a nice guy. He wants to help out his partner.
He's the most human in the whole movie.
Exactly.
The humans don't act like humans, which is I think my issue with it is like I want to see that medieval characters brought into a modern world, but I don't feel like that is our world. I don't feel like that's how people act. And because what I think this movie really needed was a human that sided with him. Will Smith should have been like, hey, come on, guys, give him a break. And he's kind of like that.
He has moments, but it's more for self-preservation, though.
Yeah, there's never that forgiveness moment where he just says...
There's the one scene about halfway through the movie, again, the igniting agent is like 40 minutes in. And Will Smith's character, I can't remember his name, but irrelevant.
I think it was Nick.
Yeah. No, that was Edward. That was
Edgerton's. It's Will Smith.
But anyway, so Will Smith's character has a moment where he's confronted with, so like a big part of this movie also is these cops find a magic wand, and a magic wand is like
a nuclear bomb, basically.
Yeah, or
universe.
As Nick says, it's a nuclear bomb that grants wishes.
Yeah.
It's so powerful, it's like ultra black market stuff. Like, once you handle this, either people are going to come after you, or if you're not a bright, which is the only thing that can handle a magic wand, it will kill you. And so these cops decide, okay, here's what we're going to do. We basically have weaponized magic. We're going to take it for ourselves, sell it to the highest bidder, and make a boatload of cash. And they give Will Smith an ultimatum. Hey, go kill Nick, or we kill you. And Will Smith has this moment where he can't bring himself to kill Nick, so he kills all 4 of the police officers who want to kill both of them.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so maybe he's going to turn around, but he really doesn't. He's still just very hateful and spite.
And again, that scene in particular makes me go like, are people really like that? That like immediately the law and order officers are just like instantly like, we can harness this for good. And I'm more confused as to why like the military wouldn't get involved in something like that.
Yeah, I feel like like in LA and bigger cities, there would be a lot more corrupt cops. So it probably is true for there, but I wouldn't say like as a general.
I can go along with there's a corrupt police idea, but to me it's more of there's a couple in the crowd, not the entire police force.
Exactly.
It would make more sense to me if one of them was like, let's use this for ourselves, and then I'd be like, oh, there's their take on the matter. But when I think there was 4 of them.
Yeah.
All 4 of them are like, we can all team up together and do that. I was like, wow, you guys are just the worst.
Yeah, you're awful.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't feel that was realistic. Yeah, I didn't find. It started feeling phony. It was like you're making characters do whatever you need them to do for the plot to move along.
Yeah,
with avoiding logic.
It never happens organically, basically.
Yeah, I didn't feel, that's a good word for it, organic. And it's kind of confusing because of how they treat the elves as kind of this upper class, like untouchable.
Like, I want to know something. Are the elves are they like Tolkien elves? They live forever, basically, and
they said something about them living for like thousands of years.
Yeah.
Or they're very old and very.
And there's one thing that kind of bugged me. Like, there's this one scene where like this orc crime boss is. I like the scene because it was just like, all right, here's a piece of world building. He's like talking
orc
about
gangs.
Yeah, orc gangs and dwarf gangs and human gangs all getting together in like these certain communities. Like, hey, we'll all have a party, get together, it'll be fun. And he's like, and you know who always brought the weapons? Will Smith's like, us. I'm like, you're telling me the crazy blooded orcs who, and I guess being blooded is like a sign of being accepted in the clan. I'm like, yeah. I'm pretty sure those guys are bringing in a Mossberg once in a while too. You can't BS me, Mr. Crime Lord.
Right.
You're just a racist.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I meant the elf thing bothered me because it was like, are they
like the 1%? Yeah.
Is that what they're going for? Mm-hmm. And if so, it went over the top when it had an elves only sign on a neighborhood street.
Yeah, I think.
Because I was like, well, that feels like a callback to pre-civil rights times.
Even though
it was like whites only.
Yeah, even though that would never be the case now. It's more, if anything, it'd be like no whites allowed, probably.
Yeah.
Or maybe it'd be inverse, like literally anyone but elves.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets more, the problem with this concept is it gets more confusing the more you think about it. So for me it was like, okay, well if elves live an extra long time, I think that means that do they have to work longer than humans? Like, how does Social Security work if you don't die after 100 years?
Exactly. So, like, do they basically just invest, like, way early on in their lives and, like, okay, this worked out. I'm going to just cash out. Right. I'm done. I'm retired.
If they live the longest, wouldn't there be 90% elves and 10% everything else?
Exactly.
Given that they have such a longer lifespan and they're so smart.
Or it's like maybe they don't have as much of a breeding season.
They must not reproduce as much. And if they're so rich, is it because they're just smart?
Yeah.
I suppose, is that part of medieval things, that elves are just geniuses? Or
I think the advantage that you have when you're basically functionally immortal is like, all right, you have a long time to experiment.
And if so, wouldn't they by default be in charge of everything?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Wouldn't they be the government and the military and the cops? If the elves... I don't know. It's the more I think about it, the more confusing it gets, but... I thought the elves only thing was like...
It's like, really, guys?
Guys, it doesn't...
That would never happen, especially in California, especially in Los Angeles.
Right.
Any kind of segregation would be
especially
a no-go.
In California.
Yeah.
Would be a definite... So that's what I mean by, like, I want to see medieval characters in a modern world, but I don't... It doesn't feel like a modern
There's a way to do it, but this is not that.
Mm-hmm. And the way they reference history is kind of weird.
Yeah. So, like, I want to know how World War II went down.
Was Hitler, like, what? Was Hitler an elf or a...
Right?
Or an orc or...
Like, it kind of reminds me of...
Did he want to kill all the orcs?
Yeah.
With the Jews? Or, I don't...
Like, I'm reminded of... A minor tangent, but I'm reminded of a thing from, like, a DC graphic novel where it's like, all right, so wait. You've had all these superheroes, and it takes place, like, 50s. It's like, where were they during World War II? And it's like, they at least kind of explain it away. It's like, they didn't want to, like, chance basically fighting the Third Reich with the Spear of Destiny, because it was rumored they had that. I'm like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. If you told me they had that, I would back down. Something like that, like, even a throwaway line to explain, okay, so...
Because they still talk about, in this film, I believe, the Alamo.
Yeah.
They make a reference to, what was it? Mexicans still get crap for the Alamo?
Yeah.
And I was like...
So, exactly
how did history go exactly the same way? There just happened to be orcs and elves? Or
yeah. Like, I want to know what the immigration, stuff was like. So...
Were there elvish countries?
Were there frickin'... Like, who was running, like, the British Empire during the American Revolution, basically?
Yeah, it gets more and more confusing the more I think about it. But
yeah.
They keep referencing this Dark Lord that happened 2,000 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's replacement Jesus. Instead of Jesus, we have evil Dark Lord.
Well, I don't know. Do one of the characters wear a crucifix?
Maybe both happened. So way back then, Jesus
Equal
came back,
obstacles.
and also Dark Lord came back. And they referenced that the orcs decided to side with the Dark Lord, and that's why there's like this pre-existing
even though I think after 2,000 years, you kind of should. I don't know. I feel like after 2,000 years, certain feuds should just die out.
I mean, that didn't even happen in real life, and our feuds have died out. Like, for things that, maybe it's commenting on organized religion.
Maybe.
Because there were definitely things where certain religions in the past, even in the 20th century, or even now, would blame races for siding with the devil or something like that, and have since changed. But again, to kind of bring all that back is like, well, is that how it would work? I don't know.
It's very, it's bad. It's like, all right, you had a good thing when you said the one sentence to Max. As it dovetailed into terrible.
As a universe, it's filled with issues. Exactly. But as just a plot, if we try to put all that to the side and say, okay, doesn't matter.
It's an okay plot. It's only okay at its best.
I guess it's... I don't know how to describe it other than just messy. It's just I can't really like anyone in particular. I feel like I'm supposed to like Joel Edgerton's character, but I feel like everything's so fake that I can't get invested. Mm-hmm. I think is my issue with it. It's just that he's like, okay, clearly he's innocent, but no one thinks he is.
Exactly.
But everyone's acting stupid.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to root for anybody when you got idiots.
Right. I thought what did you think of the moment where, spoiler alert, Orc Boss kills him? And then
I feel like
they bring him back to life with the magic wand.
I thought that was kind of an interesting show of power, but it was overshadowed when like the first major thing we saw of any kind of magic was that one person who got like splayed from the freaking waist down, and they were just like this, and it looked like their freaking vascular system was just up on the wall. I was like, that's terrifying.
Yeah, that was
was extremely horrifying.
It was a classic David Ayer piece of interesting imagery. Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, I thought that was interesting.
That was very interesting. I was like, okay, so magic is huge business. Mm-hmm. And it was...
And then the real gang starts showing up.
Yeah.
And that started messing with my brain.
Yeah, I totally thought the wheelchair-bound guy was Colonel Flagg.
Yeah. I was confused as to how someone in a wheelchair could become a mob boss.
I assume he was a mob boss first, then he gets...
Okay, because maybe it's just me. I don't know how mob bosses work, but I feel like that would...
You gotta be pretty menacing to rock the wheelchair.
Yeah, usually I assume if you're a mob boss, it's because you can tell people to do things, and they'll do them because they're afraid of you. And I'm very not afraid of someone in a wheelchair.
Maybe there's a reason why his name is Poison. Maybe his nickname used to be Gat. He used to just shoot people, but now he used to poison them.
It's like, hey, I can take your drugs and you can't even chase after me.
Yeah.
I already have an advantage, and that's just with running away.
The biggest thing that annoyed me after that whole Nick gets shot in the chest and dies and then comes back scene is like throughout the movie there's this elf chick, and it's like a whole thing. It's like played out like, oh, she doesn't speak English, Nick only knows a little bit of Elvish. Yeah. It's like, all right, all of a sudden she's speaking English. Screw you, movie.
Why do writers keep doing that?
I don't know.
Has anyone ever been like that and been like, oh, that's extremely satisfying how they knew English the whole time? That happens in movies and shows all the time. And it's always like, you're wasting so much time right now.
The only time I could kind of get behind that was like something in Logan, right? Where Laura she just wouldn't talk. It's not a matter of...
Yeah, well, that's different.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The only reason that's forgivable is because it's not that Laura's unable to speak. She just freaking hates Wolverine.
Yeah, she doesn't want to talk.
She doesn't want to.
Yeah.
And she's like, I got an intermediary with Professor X over here. I don't need to speak.
Well, it's bullcrap like in Daredevil where that lady needs a translator with her at all times.
Yeah.
Who translates for her, but then she speaks English, and you're like, oh my god.
And like...
We're wasting so much time.
Yeah, and the Defenders, there's... I don't understand this. Like, in the Defenders, there's one guy who will only speak Japanese, even though he clearly understands English. I want to know what his deal was.
They're just a jerk.
Yeah.
They just want to make us work hard. Mm-hmm. It's annoying. But yeah, when they did that in the movie, it was one of those... You realize how much you could have saved had we just spoken previously. But, I mean, like, it was quite a high-budget looking... It was a very well-made film, just production value-wise. I mean, like...
Part of me is bugged that it seemed not as colorful as a world like that should be.
It felt like David Ayer was listening to a lot of Suicide Squad complaints and was putting the fixes in this. It felt like he was trying to the colors a little bit, kind of make
little bit, but
like, hey, daylight scenes are nice.
Yeah,
we should film things when the sun is out occasionally. Yeah.
How about we do our shoots before 9 p.m.?
Right. Yeah, and then Suicide Squad felt like it was filmed in a dumpster.
Because it was all garbage.
Yeah, but this one felt like they were up in colors and vibrancy and stuff like that. And I think they even had a ludicrous rap song in the credits, just like Suicide Squad. I remember hearing that and being like, "Oh, this is like a Suicide Squad reunion, basically."
Well, except they only got back the guy who played Diablo, who was playing the deputy that he was friends with, and Will Smith.
But I mean,
what's his name? Jay Hernandez, I think.
That's fine. I think Will Smith was the best part of Suicide Squad.
So this is something that bugs me a little bit, because I think Will Smith can be a good actor.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say he's the best, but like
he chooses a lot of crap.
Like when you see him,
he can be good.
When you see him in like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or I, Robot or even Bad Boys, it's very clear he's in the role. Like I don't watch that and think, okay, that's just Will Smith. I think, no, he's actually playing somebody. It works.
Pursuit of Happiness is my favorite.
There you go.
That's a really good example of Will Smith not just playing the Will Smith character, but like the actual getting into a role.
And what bugs me about this is like I've seen Will Smith swear a lot in movies.
Yeah.
And like he swears a lot in this, but it's one thing that terrible writers will do to punch up dialogue is they'll just put obscenities everywhere, and they'll do that as a way of, it's sort of like a crutch. Like I've done this in the past before, I know. Except I'm not I'm not as bad a writer now, and so it seems like that's what happened here. Like Will Smith will drop the F-bomb a lot, and at a certain point I'm like, if I make a drinking game about this, I'm going to die.
I do recall that. That's weird. The only time you make a joke about drinking games is when something happens a lot.
Yeah, and what's weird about it is like, I know Will Smith can swear in a good way. Like there's
satisfying ways.
There's an art to it.
Yeah,
and like
the art of the F-bomb.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
Can you write a book about that with your face on the cover?
I will. But like,
the art of the F-bomb.
But so like in Bad Boys 2, there's so much being said that's just foul mouthed as hell.
Sure.
But it works. It doesn't feel like it's inorganic. And I don't know if that was just like Michael Bay telling both Martin Lawrence, is that his name? And Will Smith, go for it. Say whatever really feels natural and meshes. And then it works, or something of that nature. But in Bright, it just feels like a crutch.
Yeah, I feel like that's just how Max Landis talks, though.
Probably.
I feel like he's abusing his power with the fact that they're on Netflix and they're not on regular TV. So they're like, oh, we can say and do whatever we want now. I guess that's not true. They still have to be TV mature.
I think,
but it's Netflix. They can do whatever they want. I don't think they even have to abide by those kind of rules if they don't feel like it.
All right.
What you're saying is there's a right time.
There's always a right way to swear, and
you feel like it's overdone. It's just done to death in this one.
Basically, yeah. Like the only real, I guess, what's the word? Redeeming piece of dialogue I can think of is when they first make their approach on this hideout, where they eventually find the magic wand. And like it's Nick's first shootout. He's nervous. Will Smith's talking him through it. And at one point, like, Will Smith asks Nick, hey, have you been shot? Like, are you hurt? And he's like, I only have the holes I was born with. And Will Smith's like, all right, good. And then Nick asks him, how about you and your holes? And Will Smith is like, you're the only one who can make a gunfight awkward. And I thought that was hilarious. I laughed so hard. It's like, that was good. Yeah. That is like the one redeeming piece of dialogue in this entire movie.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, I remember that.
And you know what? There's no swearing. At least none that I can think of.
Yeah. No, there's like, I think you're right. You kind of have, I feel like writers should have a set number of curses for each character and be like, all right, you don't want to overuse it because then if it's used throughout the film, then the sweet moments aren't as sweet.
Like, I think at one point you were telling me about how you watched Chips, and that movie was just, everybody was swearing like it was going out of style.
Yeah, but it was like, again, it was very obvious that the writer was showing their own dialect in every character, which to me was unrealistic because you'd be talking to this person and they say F and F and F and this, and then they talk to some like 60-year-old lady and then she starts saying F and F and this, and you're like, you don't...
Like, okay, if there's any budding writers out there, here's an exercise. Like, just write fanfic of a show you love and just perfect the voices. If everybody starts sounding the same, you're screwing up.
Yeah.
Like, that is such a helpful thing.
It's a problem I had with the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. show was I felt like when there were lines of dialogue, they were just lines.
They were all weed.
That needed to be delivered. And it didn't matter who said them or in what order they said them. They just had to say them. So every time I walked into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it was 6 characters in a room all stating things and looking around and talking about where they had to go and what they had to do. It just so happens
they have different skins.
Yeah, they happen to be different people, but it was all the same dialogue.
Your characters cannot be a hive mind.
Yeah,
put it that way.
That's a good way to put it. Is that they should, whatever they say should resemble how they act and who they are. And I wouldn't say Bright had a huge issue with that. I think it was noticeable with people. I think that all the people kind of acted the same and all talked the same because it was like all people, humans, no matter their ethnicity, all agree on these same principles.
And it's like, no, is there not like one dissent? Like,
why couldn't Will Smith just be on Joel Edgerton's side and make this an actual buddy cop movie instead of a I hate you movie?
I don't want to like make any implications based on race, but wouldn't he be more inclined because unless the civil rights movement didn't happen because all humans collectively just agreed human good or bad.
Maybe that would have been an interesting backstory.
Exactly.
In this universe, we never had discrimination based on race because there were orcs and elves to discriminate against.
It reminds me of a thing I read that Terry Pratchett once said when he was writing his Discworld books.
Yeah.
It was like there was no real reason for humans to have infighting against black and white because they all collectively agreed green was bad. And I was like, could you, like, if they had dropped those little nuggets, like, good concept, and they threw the pebble in the pond, but the ripples didn't just go out smoothly. It just hit a bunch of jagged rocks that really interrupt the experience.
Okay.
I'm good at metaphors.
Yes. Okay, no, that works. Yeah, that works. That makes sense. But yeah, so Bright recently was green-lit for a sequel. So what's our thoughts on where this universe can go?
I mean,
where did it end? Doesn't it end with them both getting medals and them finding out that well, okay, the government takes the magic wand.
Yeah, it ends with the government basically saying, hey.
Oh, and they have to honor the corrupt policemen who died and say that they died as heroes when they really didn't. And I was like, okay, what's that commentary on?
I think it's not commentary. I think it's just how it's supposed to go.
Tragedy.
Sucks. But yeah, it's like...
I always hate that in movies.
What?
I call that Shakespearean now. Shakespearean means that there wasn't a resolution and everyone died and now everything sucks.
Right.
That's what I consider Shakespearean.
Drew's not a fan of Shakespeare.
Yes. I still need to make my hour-long movie on this.
Do it.
I've been watching Black Mirror recently.
Oh boy.
And while we're on the topic of social commentary, I think that's a far more interesting take on
I'm gonna have to watch this show at some point.
The idea. It's very hit and miss for me.
Well, everybody keeps talking about it like I'm going to love it. I'm like, you don't know me.
No, I don't want to hype it up for you. I definitely don't love it. What's annoying with Black Mirror, though, is that each episode's completely different. So there's one episode I'll love, and then the next one I'll hate.
Well, I like that when it's a series like The Twilight Zone, where it's just short little stories.
That's what people compare it to. But
Yeah,
Black Mirror,
because Twilight Zone's good.
Yeah.
Consistently.
Black Mirror, I think, is an example of, like I said earlier, social commentary should not be on things that have already happened. Because then it's just a stupid history lesson. But it's not even history at that point.
Yeah.
Social commentary should talk about what's going on right now or what we will have to deal with someday, which is what Black Mirror mostly deals with, is future forms
like
of...
speculative fiction, basically.
Yes, this is what... And it's very realistic, I would say. As a futurist who likes to predict where technology's going, I can say that quite a lot of what Black Mirror shoots for, they get right.
They're on the right track.
I think they bring up a lot of issues we might have someday. But yeah, on that show, occasionally there's episodes where it's a happy ending and things work out, and you're like, yeah, this is great. And other times they're just like, and that will be terrible. And that's in our future. This will happen and it will suck. And it's like, at least there's a conversation to be had there. Like they have episodes about, for instance, when a child's born, the mom being able to implant this chip into her kid's brain where she can see what her kid's seeing at all times, and they're able to censor hostile things from her, and it's just like it's a debate on what kind of things people will be investing and spending their time on decades from now, which is interesting. I know you won't, but I'm just saying that's something moms would do. I mean, when you're 4 or 5, you don't have a say on it. But it battles with an interesting discussion of like, should that be allowed or should that be just monitored better? Yeah. I won't spoil the show for you, but it's interesting social commentary because it's like that's not something we have now, but it could be something in the future we might own.
It's very much inverse of what Bright is trying to do.
Where Bright's telling us about something we already know. Yeah. So it's like if you have
guys,
something to add.
Pretty much anyone born I was probably after 1940 at the very earliest, doesn't like the whole racist stuff.
No, it's
they
safe
look
to
at
say
it and they think it's stupid.
It's very mainstream to not be racist. So
well, some people are trying to make it not mainstream.
Well, what I mean is if think of a YouTuber, if they start making racist remarks, they're not going to get good press about it. That's not going to.
I mean, when people film someone hanging in a suicide forest, we pounce on that.
We can all agree that's bad, but
yeah.
I just mean the social commentary at Bright's uninteresting. The universe he built it's broken. And
it's very confusing. It's extremely knotted up.
Not consistent.
I would be more interested in just some random encyclopedia that Max Landis makes for this universe.
I think he would do better on a Black Mirror show where he has
maybe 40
minutes to an hour to do something interesting. Maybe that's what he should do, not a hour and a half long feature film with $40 million.
There's definitely some people who are much better at writing shorter stories. There's this one review I saw of the entire Sherlock series, and his name is H. Bomber Guy. I don't agree with a lot of what he says, but just in general. But when he's talking about Sherlock, good God, he's on the money with Moffat. So,
really?
He talks about the fact that when you're watching the pilot of Sherlock, it doesn't quite mesh right. It's because there's too much time to fill. So you naturally have to add more and more to it to fill out the time slot. Because you got 90 minutes, you got to make sure they all get used. It's okay. And he talks.
Pilots are never a good.
Well, that's the thing. He was talking about the pilot before the pilot, the test one.
Oh, the test one. Okay.
And it's a much more concise story. It works better. It flows better. Everything's just generally nicer because it's shorter and you have to get to the point. Max Landis didn't do that.
No. This felt like kind of a bloated. Why are we spending time on this right now? But again, they take whole chunks of the movie just to do social commentary stuff.
Yeah.
Which, as I've mentioned, it's not interesting. It's
Right.
it's not an engaging battle. If I did a Hello World on how racism is bad, everyone would be like, okay.
Woo, you're a good person, I guess.
Yeah, it's like we all know that.
You don't get a cookie for being a decent human being.
What could Bright 2 or Brighter or Dark or whatever great name I'm sure they'll come up with do differently, I guess? I mean,
be good.
I feel like there's too much of the universe they've built that leaves too many questions.
Well, it's like they have. It's weird. When I'm thinking back on it, it's like the exact same problem the DC universe has, except they only managed to do it in one movie. Like, they start with an interesting concept, but then that interesting concept is like the kitchen sink, and everything else just an MC Escher nightmare. Because you're trying to think, so wait, are there countries? Are there settlements? Is it like, where do they come from? Like, is there any common ancestor between elves, orcs, and humans or something, or...
Why has there never been crossbreeding or?
Yeah. Are there stories of like, can humans and orcs have kids?
Or elves or?
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, there's a lot of questions like that.
Are dwarves based? Are there actual dwarves, or are they just humans and midgets get lumped in with them? I mean.
So you're saying the world building didn't do its job right because it was highlighting things that weren't interesting and glossing over things that we were confused about.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's safe. So maybe in Bright 2 they could highlight more of that.
Yeah, and like another thing, like we already kind of touched on this, how a Bright is like the only, like there's Brights and they're the only ones who are able to handle magic properly.
Right.
And I'm like, so how do you test for that? Because the only way you know for sure if you're not like that is just guess. It's basically like it's just like playing Russian roulette with a 500 Magnum.
Are Brights people? Are they just man or?
They're like they're across the races. It looks like.
So they're separate. They're like their own.
It's like their own sub thing. I'm like, okay, so do you have like, are there genetic markers?
So like only the child of a Bright can use a wand.
Yeah, like.
But then spoilers. Will Smith can handle the wand,
which kind of annoyed me. I was really hoping it was going to be Nick.
Yeah.
I was like, honestly, you know what? Give Nick some respect.
Because then it would have been like awarding the innocent to power.
Like, I mean, it's like... Oh, memory card's full on that one.
Okay.
Anyway.
We're down to this one.
Yeah, it's down to this one. It's like... What's that saying in the Bible? Like, the meek shall inherit the earth kind of thing? Isn't that something?
Sure. That's probably in there.
Something like that, you know?
Yeah. I don't know. Like, other than the guy who I'm not totally rooting for.
Yeah.
He's cool, but again, like there's a lot of hatred he has against the orc
for no reason.
I guess he's mad because he let him get shot, but I thought he explained that pretty well.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess with the second one, I would just say
don't do it.
Well, don't do it, but they're gonna do it. But is make both characters likable.
Yeah, exactly.
They need to be friends this time. Maybe that's something that can redeem in the sequels. The fact that now that they've had this experience together,
they're actually really good friends. It's like, you know what, this guy's got my back.
We can like both characters instead of just being like Will Smith's kind of a jerk. To this guy.
But that's always annoying. Like, I think Will Smith's just a naturally likable person.
Yeah, don't make.
And they make him play this terrible human being. He's like, come on.
You can't make us not.
I like Will Smith.
It's impossible. So when you turn him into a bad guy,
like, did you see that one little snippet from like some award show where he's like, dude, I know that guy. He was on Fresh Prince. I didn't know he was still in the job. Like, he remembered a random camera guy for like 20 years.
Yes, he's a very friendly guy.
He's a very friendly guy.
And I can't think of him in an antagonist role.
Like, I don't even know if he can be a bad person. He probably can, but I've never heard of it.
Oh no. Don't.
I'm still waiting.
Don't chance it.
Hey, yeah, honestly, at this point, it might come out in the next day or two anyway with how Hollywood's burning to the ground.
They could make an app that just updates every day.
Yeah.
Today's new scandal is Bubba.
Yeah.
Aziz Ansari. It gets worse all the time. But it's like, it's bad news, but it's also good news because it means that we're showing that celebrities in Hollywood can't get away with that.
Exactly.
And it's a cleansing process, but I'm afraid that it's going to take a long time. You're going to find out, Hollywood, that
it'll get there, but yeah, you're right.
If you expose every corrupt celebrity, you won't have any celebrities left. Because that's just about all of them.
I remember somebody said something like, if you take away all the ethical people from the Golden Globes, you'll be left with Denzel Washington. I was like, all right.
That's fair.
That's not a bad thing. I like it.
I was like, if we just don't hire anyone who has crap in their past, then you won't have anyone left.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll take a long time to get through all these, but probably never will end. But.
As far as other things that could be rectified and made good and bright too, bright is, I don't know.
Maybe the Dark Lord will actually return this time.
Maybe.
Then they could explain more of the history.
Yeah.
Maybe with Dark Lord coming back, because I feel like that's the obvious way to go. Because they reference him a lot, but in this one he doesn't come back.
It's more like they just are trying to stop him from ever coming on screen. Like, I kind of wanted him to, just to see what's he all about.
And Netflix was like, this was the most successful film we've ever had on
Netflix.
Netflix.
That's terrifying.
And I was, no, it's much better, because you know what was the most successful before this one?
What?
Ridiculous 6. So, I'd rather Bright be the Netflix avatar.
We gotta do Dandrew just on talking about Adam Sandler's decline. Because he has a few good movies, but they're like from the 90s.
I can count them on one hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it now. Happy Gilmore. I'd say Big Daddy. What do you think of Anger Management?
I didn't see Anger Management.
Okay.
I've watched a couple Adam Sandler movies and then I stopped.
Because I was like,
this isn't worth it.
This is not worth it.
But yeah, I'd say Bright 2 has potential to be better, but
in the same way that Justice League had potential to be better than Suicide Squad.
Yes. I hope they acknowledge that a lot of people didn't like this movie and they could listen to the feedback and not pull a Last Jedi and do a complete 180, but make minor tweaks.
Right.
Maybe don't bring back Max Landis. You probably have to, but if you aren't required to, if you get someone else, we'll be totally okay with that. I think that's what that movie needs right now, is a different take.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We will see you in the next one. I'm Danny Movie Man.
And I'm the Apple Shape.
And we will see you later. Bye.